welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. And as always, very grateful, very happy to have you here. If you're returning, thank you so much. And if you've just found me in the podcast sphere, welcome to you. And I have a guest with me today, all the way across the pond in the USA. I have Terry with me, who is the founder of Thor Wellness. And this is a coaching and retreat company. And I'm just going to get straight into this because I feel like we're going to have a lot to chat about today. Terry, what is your mission?
Well, Joanne, first of all, I want to thank you for having me as a guest. And you're absolutely lovely. I'm so excited and happy that we have connected. And so to answer your question, what is my mission? My mission really is to push the boundaries in everything in life, to find a way to live on fire, to live all in, all cylinders running and just being as energetic, as joyful, as happy and fun as I possibly can be, and to share that with everyone that I know and anyone that I connect to. I hope that it becomes infectious enough and magnetic enough that people kind of wake up a little bit from the general narrative and think to themselves, well, what is it that I can do to experience that no matter what age I am?
I love that. And was there a particular turning point that you sort of reflected on your own life and thought, well, what am I doing? How can I make this bigger? Or changing that path, thinking outside the box? Was there something that sort of triggered that? Or were you exposed to something? How did you get here?
Yes, I got exposed to getting really overweight in my late 30s. So after 2 children and a very demanding job, I had many corporate jobs, but I also started my own companies. By the time I was 37, I had about maybe 4 or 5 other companies that I had started and sold and moved on from. And so I was addicted to startups and business and working and being an entrepreneur that I completely ignored the health and wellness aspect of my life. And so by the time I was 37, I woke up at 210 pounds, extremely overweight. I'm 5'3", so it wasn't a good number for me. And yeah, I was pre-diabetic. I was starting to have all kinds of problems, and I was only 37 with 2 kids. So I had a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old at the time, and things were not going well. And so I started trying to figure out, like, what do I need to do to feel better? And of course, one of the things was lose weight.
Yeah. And did you find, I'm sure you did, that it was affecting you not only in obviously the corporate world, but as a mother when, you were struggling with your weight in that sense? Was that kind of the wake up call to, I need to do something about this, or maybe you're not even going to be around for much longer? It sounds dramatic, but did you have that sort of reflection point?
I did a little bit, especially after I got hospitalized twice. So I looking back at it now, I believe I was having some kind of a panic attack, possibly, because once they did an EKG and I went to a cardiologist, they couldn't find anything, but that, of course, does not mean that there wasn't something starting to happen just because they couldn't find anything in the traditional medical system. Um, but I've never had a panic attack before that. So, and I've never had any since that took me to the hospital. So I ended up in the hospital two separate times on two separate occasions with crazy heart palpitations and chest pain actually that I thought were heart attacks. So that kind of scared me quite a bit. I It was discovered that I had ovarian cysts growing. I had like 18 or 19 of them, all at the same time. They're all gone now. I they did discover a heart murmur that I never really ever had before and have not had since losing weight. Pre-diabetic markers, lots of things, like a lot of joint pain, really terrible mood swings. I mean, you name it, I was having it.
Yeah, I feel like that's the whole list of symptoms that we sort of say if you're experiencing any of the following. So you put this down to, I guess, not prioritizing yourself. You were busy corporate world, addicted to that. In my head, I see, when you go to New York and it's the Wall Street and people are busy and it's like, well, when you're there on as a tourist and it's like, oh my God, that kind of lifestyle. That's I imagine it in my head, the corporate. And since I've been to New York a couple of times now. The first time I was like, wow, look at all these businessmen and women walking around in their suits. But when I've been back working as someone in wellness now, I do look at it very differently. And I do think, like, I wonder if they're getting their 8 hours. I wonder if they're, eating at their desk and running around with, processed food. And are they looking after their health rather than being in awe of, oh my God, look at all these people on Wall Street, to are they looking after that? Are they really healthy? Like, what are they putting at risk? Was that the same case with you? Sort of that came first, you came second, or maybe even third if you had children. I'm guessing you were at the back of the priority queue.
I wasn't in the queue.
Ah,
There was no space for me. I was not on the priority list at all. My name did not make the list of things I had to do every day.
so
But yeah, absolutely. I came to the United States as an immigrant in 1989. And so it's not, I wasn't born here. And my first place that I lived was New York. And so, yeah, I had the same reaction. Although my first reaction flying into JFK, I'll never forget it. I was looking out the window. I was 11 years old and I did not like it. I did not find New York City to be this magnificent place. It actually gave me a really queasy, nauseous feeling in my stomach as a child who didn't know any better.
yeah,
Because the energy was dark to me. I felt like it wasn't a great place
yeah,
for your health. Um, but then I got sucked into the system, and everything here is about achieving external success, achieving status, gaining as much power in the workplace as possible, earning the biggest income, being the star of the corporate environment, or if you're in a startup environment, then everybody's chasing the dollar or chasing some kind of a recognition or an award or something like that. And so that's the environment, and that is the culture of business, of course, right?
yeah,
But it goes in the complete negative direction as far as our health and wellness is concerned, which when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. It explains why so many people are not healthy, they have chronic disease, they're obese, diabetic, heart attack, and dying from these things, actually dying from
Yeah.
all of these issues that can be prevented.
Yeah. Because we grow up and we live in a world that I know there are some shifts starting to happen, that culture is the one that's celebrated. It's the one that's, you finish school, it's college, university, career, and how far up can you climb up get up that ladder, mortgages, and it's this list of things that we're meant to do. But along the way, no one ever sort of says, but make sure you look after yourself on the way. Make sure you get 8 hours sleep. Make sure you drink 3 liters of water and you eat your fruit and vegetables. That's kind of just, if anything, that tiredness, that 3 hours sleep is a badge of honor. Like, high five, I didn't sleep last night. Amazing. It's kind of the opposite that we're fed into, which then in turn lines a lot of other people's pockets who are in this ladder of, sick people make money. So we have people making money and then we're making the people sick. And then those people, it's this vicious circle of money and sickness. And I could go on and on and on, but I feel like once you're in that trap, was it hard to get out for you? How did you get out actually? Tell me.
Yes. So once you get in that trap, you are so consumed and become so brainwashed by this thing called corporate culture and by the team that you work with, by the different values and priorities that are put onto you to perform a certain way, by the pressure to provide, to earn a certain standard of living, based on this crazy idea nowadays that a case of blueberries costs 15.95 dollars. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, like that's pretty insane, right? So the cost of living has gone up, the standard of living has gone up. Now everybody's got $1,000 cell phone in your household. Everybody's got an iMac, everybody's got this, everybody's got that. And so people feel this immense pressure to continue working even when it's not in their best interest. So what ends up happening when I started on this journey, I had to make a choice. I had to decide, am I willing to die for the iPhones and the iMacs and the new sneakers that are also apparently $1,000 that everybody has, all the children have $1,000 sneakers. Am I willing to die for these things? Because once I embark on this path, a lot of things are going to have to be let go, right? I'm probably going to have to need more time to get myself together, which will obviously take time away from my earning capacity. And so I did it. I couldn't abandon myself to that degree. I had abandoned myself for years, but I couldn't accept allowing myself to die. Um, so that was one of the things I had to do. There was a bit of a dissonance in my head about everything I had believed in the past, everything that I was brainwashed into thinking that I had to be a strong woman. And what a strong woman means is that she has a 16-hour job, she takes care of her kids, she takes care of her house, she has a great social life, she's got lots of friends and lots of events. That was, and she can do everything. She
Yeah.
doesn't need anyone and she can do it all. And so that's the brainwashing that goes on, right? That's what we're made to believe. And so I had to let go of that. I had to say, no, no, no. I need to redefine what it actually means to be a woman. And it's definitely not doing all of these things. That's not the definition as far as what my heart and my gut were telling me. So there's a lot of resistance to that from everyone around me. But I was ready. I was ready when I started.
I totally resonate with that because I know I mentioned when we were chatting at the beginning, I used to be not not corporate, but I was a school teacher, and I was struggling in the same ways of, 40, 45 hour weeks. And yes, we got good holidays and the pay was good, but working 11 hours a day, not being able to go to the toilet, I was anxious. I was, couldn't eat properly, and my health took the brunt of it. And once I decided to stop all of those same things in my mind, were, you know, it's this toxic feminism, I guess, that we're supposed to want to do all of the same things as a man as well. And I grew up like, yes, I can do that. I can work like a man. And then one day I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm not a man. I'm not a small man. I have a completely different biological system. I'm so tired because I'm trying to push myself every single day, even when, we have our menstrual cycle, when we're bleeding and we're doing an 11-hour day and we're not having the sleep and I'm not eating any iron. No wonder every time I stand up, I'm like, whoa, going to pass out, and it's having that, it's understanding, following your heart, and then saying, having the courage to say no. I'm not bowing down to that anymore because it's me or this way of living. And I'm sure you've seen the stories, the 100-year-old women and men on their deathbeds and their regrets. And all of them were working too long, not spending time with family, not looking after health. And I was like, I do not want one of those. I do not want them on my deathbed regrets. And yeah, so I totally resonate with everything that you've just said there. And it is, some people are, oh, it's selfish. And what are you going to do for money? And, oh, you're leaving a really good career. I'm like, so what? I have a life. Like, I'm not here to have a career. I'm here to have a life. We only get one chance, you know? So how did you start
Exactly.
to, yeah, break away from, you were in the corporate busy world, startup companies. Did you just down tools, or did you sort of do it slowly, backing off gently?
So I did it in a sense where the first thing I did was I backed away from the day to day and I gave myself an hour to 2 hours a day, every day, no matter what was going on, to go to the gym, prepare my food, meal prep, figure out my schedule, take care of myself. An hour to an hour and a half a day is really all that I needed in the beginning. And so little by little, I started figuring out, how do I exit the company? How do I do less and less and less and less? How do I delegate more? How do I completely step out and let someone else take over, which is essentially what I did. And I started having more and more time on my hands, and I became so fascinated with everything that was happening to my body, to my mind, to my energy, to um, my environment, the way people were reacting to the changes that I was making. Initially, I thought people would think I was crazy. People people would be like, "What are you doing? That's really odd. You eat 5 times a day, you count macros. That's really odd." But instead, what ended up happening is that most of the women that I knew that were in my daily circle, in my neighborhood, my neighbors, my friends, did not think I was crazy. They actually wanted me to help them. They started asking me, how do I do this? Show me, teach me. I want to do it. And I was so flattered. I was so inspired. It was like a reverse inspiration where their inspiration was inspiring me to really get into the science and the process on a professional level. And I started helping my friends, my neighbors do the same thing to live better, essentially. And their transformations have been phenomenal as well. And then I decided, you know what? This makes me so happy. This gives me so much joy. and I feel so fulfilled. I have no other choice but to go into this full time because I have not found anything, and I'm almost 48 years old. I have not found anything yet, and I don't think I will, that gives me this much joy to work with other people and help them feel better. And I just went for it all in. I got all of my certifications. I have quite a few clients that have already been working with me for 2 to 3 years. And yeah, it's been the most amazing experience ever.
Just interrupting this episode to remind you to please like, subscribe, drop 5 stars if you enjoy listening to my podcast. It really does mean the world to me. And also to remind you, you can now watch every episode on my YouTube channel. Head to YouTube, type in Joanne Wellth, and I'll see you there. Love that. And that is the difference between being in the corporate world. Of course, you're making money now. You're not doing this for free, but there's more wealth in seeing the smile on someone else's face when you've changed her life around and you've pulled her out from, wherever she is, than sitting at the desk and just watching numbers on the screen. And it's the job fulfillment, the job satisfaction that we all strive for. But when we're in this box and we're in the cage of, doing, and for me, it was in school, and school teaching should be fulfilling, working with the children, but the whole education system is so. The first word that came into my head then was corrupt. So I'm just going to go with it. And it sucked the joy out from me. And I'd have small pockets of joy when the kids would come to me and say, "Oh, thank you, miss," or, we'd have those small moments. But that's all it was. It was small moments. 5% of the time, and 95% of the time it was literally soul destroying, and there was no joy in it. Then when I, same as you, took a step back, started to learn about myself, speaking to other women who were also craving the same thing. And I don't know if you also found, when I started to learn more, and I would go to my friends and say, "Did you know?" And and were also clueless about their own bodies, their own menstrual cycles. A lot of people I spoke to, a lot of women, they just thought that it was that 7 days, that bleed, not taking into account the whole from day 1 to day 28, or however. I just thought it was my period, my bleed. I'm like, no, absolutely not. And this is why you're struggling with X, Y, and Z. And then just seeing that light bulb moment with them of, oh my God, this explains so much. I was like, right, I'm doing the right thing here, and I can feel this joy changing other women's lives. Do you feel that there's a real, like, women are hungry for this at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing that signals to me that I'm doing the right thing is because as you were talking, I started getting goosebumps. My whole body started getting electrified because I know exactly what you mean. There are so many things about I call this instrument, our body, a natural intelligence machine, right? Rather than artificial intelligence, the naturally intelligent machine that is intuitive, and it has so many different systems and pathways and programming and all these things that exist within us, and we are running around without an operating manual. And the less we know about how our natural intelligence machine operates, the better it is for all of the external organisms to take advantage of our machine, because we don't know how to prevent breakdowns. We don't know how to fix breakdowns. We don't know how to clean our own system, how to defrag our own body, right? If we're a machine, we don't have the operating manual. We don't know what it is. We don't know how it works. We don't know why it does the things that it does. We don't know where this programming comes in, right? Or when was it installed? We know nothing about it. And so it's really easy when you have this naturally intelligent, extremely powerful instrument be unaware
Mm.
of what it
Yeah.
is and how it works. It's so easy to guile it and to lead it the wrong way because it has no ground to stand on. It doesn't know who it is, what it does, why it's here, what its purpose is. And it's so easy to lead people in the wrong direction, which is a lot of it is for profit, right? A lot of it is, but I'm not so sure it's all about profit because how much more profit can these corporations want? So there's got to be something else going on. I just haven't really figured it out yet. But that is what I feel. I feel that this is, to me, this is more about training. It is more than just about how to eat. It's more than just, the functional aspects of sleeping and walking and, you know, all of that. It's really about as a collective, we need to begin to understand how we operate, why we operate, who we are, what we're designed for, what we're not designed for, and whether something is in our best interest or it's not. And I think that's what's going to shift consciousness as a collective. I think that's what's going to change everything that's going on that's not right for us, but we have to wake up somehow. So to me, this is way more than, doing dumbbell
Yeah.
curls.
Beyond,
You know what I mean?
yeah. It's beyond health, like health, fitness, diet is kind of the tip, the picture of the iceberg when you see it under the water. We have all of that on the top, and then we have our biology. And then the bit under the water that we can't see is the empowerment, is the ownership, is the, connecting to yourself spiritually. And I really feel, and you just said it as well, coming together as a collective, as women, because we've been kept into this man-shaped box for so long that we're not meant to be. And I say, well, I'm not a small man, but I was living a small man's world, you know, just seeing ourselves as women. We're separate. We're not small men. We have our own needs. We have our own biological needs. We need to do things differently, and just learning about what they are, how we do them, and how we ask for them, and feeling empowered to ask for them. In an ideal, if I could wave my magic wand, imagine if women could have the first day of their bleed off work, take that day, whether you're whether you're in pain or not, just having that day to rest. Because is it the only thing, is it, the people joke about it's the only living thing that bleeds for 7 days without dying? Like, yes, I know that's a joke that people make, but that happens. That's what we do. But then we're still expected to carry on, 40 hours a week and pushing ourselves. And then when you bring children into the mix, and it is a lot that we need to sort of learn about ourselves to step away from that. Yeah, sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there.
No, I love this because I know I'm fascinated because here's the thing. So I used to have the worst periods ever. Like they were nightmares for me and everyone around me. I was a monster, okay? It was bad. But I don't have a period anymore. I'm like completely menopausal since almost 5 years ago. So 42 it just disappeared. It it's just gone. And so I celebrate that every day. I'm so happy. And because it was horrific. It was very difficult. And I used to tell people all the time, like, I wish you I wish you could understand what it's like to be a woman, to get your period, to truly you were bleeding, and to have to do all these other things on top of that, like work and children and house and this and that and all these obligations. Um, it seems really unreasonable when you think about it. But because it's so accepted and that people expect that. And I'm like, well, where did this expectation come from? Because my body is not liking it.
Hundreds of years ago, it would have been a thing. We would have gathered in red tents, and we would have, it was but a whole spiritual connection. And then when you reached menopause, that would have been another like celebration of wow, it's stepping into, is it maiden mother crone, isn't it? They go through, and it's celebrated when you get your period, when you become a mother, and then when you step into menopause. But I think even we've lost that, and it's kind of put on us that like, oh no, menopause, and it's something to worry about, and all of these bad things are going to happen. But it did used to be a celebration of you've reached this, you're the wise, you're wise, you've got learning, you can teach other, pass down your wisdom type thing. And even just going through menopause and the changes that our body has, and again, we're still expected to just carry on. It's okay, and you'll get called this name, a hormonal menopausal, as if it's a negative thing. That actually, no, there's a reason that I feel this way. There's a reason that I'm struggling, and I should be allowed to say, hang on a minute, I just need to take a step back here because this is going on. We need to look after this. I read something somewhere once, and it said if men had periods, imagine how different the world would be in menopause if it was a switch, but how
Right.
much more accepted it would be. So there'd probably be like bleeding breaks at work, and you'd get those days off, and it would be completely different. And just thinking about that, if men did have that, and even the things that men do suffer with, they're not looked at or talked about as much as, men aren't looked down. You say, for example, impotence, it's kind of like, oh, these things happen, but then menopause is seen as like end of life. That's it, you're done, you're on the shelf, just how it's viewed so differently. It's always, and
Hmm.
really interests me that the two ways that we're, you know, perceived.
Hmm.
So with your retreats, and your coaching, so you've got so much, and again, when I use experience, it's life experience, it's feeling and emotional experience, not just experience again in the corporate world on paper, your CV, it's actual felt experience. And do you feel that in your work now that really enables you to do the job and really push through rather than, just that paper experience that we have when we work in corporate?
That is such a great compliment you gave me that I don't think I've ever heard that before. So thank you for that. Um, I do I do believe that lived experience and what you just said, I never thought of it that way. Feeling experience, having had enough feelings personally, wow, that is brilliant. Gives you experience to pass down to other people or to even understand them, right? To have empathy and sympathy for what they're going through because you have actually felt and experienced that in your own body. That is a superpower. And I've never really thought about it that way because we always think of feelings and emotions and things that happen to us as a negative thing. We don't ever that is brilliant. Wow. You really like you struck something here because yeah, the resume of feelings experience can be vast. And that experience and that resume of known emotions can help people heal
Yeah.
when they
And
have
you,
the right person working with them. Yeah.
and that's something that you can't buy, you can't study that. It's within us, if you've experienced that. And I would say you experience that to then help each other people, help other people as well. Like these things happen to certain people so that they can then pass it on. You can share it. So yeah, so thank you for spreading the word, working with women and empowering other women to step into a version of themselves where they are big, they're bold, they're fun, and they really understand their inner workings. So just before we wrap up, is there anything, if you could wave a magic wand? I know we've spoken about so much, so and your mission, but any last words for the women listening to this who might feel like they're stuck, their hands are tied, they're not sure where to go. What advice would you give them?
Find a community. Find a community that is doing what you want to do, that is living the way that you want to live, that maybe is making you a little bit nervous, a little bit scared. Maybe you're unsure, your skin starts to tingle when they talk to you about these things. Something just feels like truth because you will know it. You will feel the truth before you accept it, before you understand it, even. You're going to feel it. So find a community, find a coach, find a guide, find someone that can give you leverage to get to where you're going, to make the process faster, and just open your mind to the fact that maybe, just maybe, we are living in a place that is not what we think. We are being told things that are not necessarily true. And maybe everything is upside down because that's what I discovered, and life has never been better since I made that realization. Because then you just start to live from your true self, your true being
Yeah,
takes over when you realize all this stuff is nonsense.
yeah, I agree. I also had that epiphany. Some people would call me a conspiracy theorist, but I would say if there's a conspiracy theory there, then there has to be some truth to it because we don't just make this. These things are just not made up. We can't just make these things up. Anyway, I think that's probably another whole podcast. So thank you so much, Harry, for joining me today. I will put all of your information, your Instagram, your website, in my show notes so people can reach out to you. And thank you. Thank you so much for chatting and sharing your story. I'm sure it's just one person, one woman listening to this today that's like, oh my God, there's someone that's listened that takes a step and does something. And that's why we do what we do, isn't it? So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Joanne, for having me. I had the best time ever chatting with you. I love what you said. That's making me like teary. So it really struck. That is true.
Thank you.
So yes, if we can help just one person, that is all that is necessary. So
Yeah.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for listening. And I will be back next week.